So Hunter Biden came out at a press conference and he just dropped the mic on these MAGA Republicans. And I'm so proud of him for finally standing up for himself and just giving it back to him. This was long overdue. I loved how he said, you want to ask Horse Hunter? I'm right here. You want to question me? You question me in public. For far too long, we have sat back and watched the right wing use this guy as their scapegoat, as their boogeyman, as their distraction from the things they're doing. And anyone can see through it. Anyone can see through the fact that this is nothing more than a smear campaign to make Joe Biden look bad because, after all, the front runner of their party looks pretty fucking bad. So how do we distract from that? Well, we go dig up his son's past and we throw that around and we try to muddy the water and get people to say, well, they're both just as bad. And we can distract from the fact that we have the true crime family as our front runner. That's what their game has been this entire time. But I loved how he stood up and he acknowledged his mistakes. That's something you never see from the right. He took responsibility and accountability for his actions. That is a lost art in the Republican Party. They used to be the party of accountability. They used to be the party of personal responsibility. But they have long foregone that. They have long left that in the rearview mirror. Nowadays, it's all about taking no responsibility for your actions, blaming everybody else for your mistakes, blaming everybody else for your shortcomings. That's what their party and their platform has become. But the part about Hunter's speech that really resonated with me was where he talked about how that they had ridiculed his addiction and belittled his recovery. Now, I have shared this story on the channel before, but I've gained quite a few new followers on here since then. And I did do a video for Midas Touch on this subject, so some of you may have heard this story before, but for those of you that haven't, I don't mind repeating it. I myself am a recovering addict. I spent a week in rehab with my addiction to Xanaxes and to alcohol. Now, I can tell you, when you go into a place like that, it's because you've hit rock bottom. It's because you've ran straight into the wall and you've got nowhere to go. When you get to that point, it's like, I have to go. There's no other way out. This is a have to case, and you have to come face to face with your demons. And when you walk in there, it is the absolute darkest moment of your life. I've never had anything come close to being that dark, and I've never in my life felt more alone in that moment. Because when you walk in there, there's so much uncertainty. And you honestly say to yourself, am I ever going to make it out? And I had no communication with the outside world. While I was in there, I wasn't allowed visitors and I wasn't allowed phone calls. So it's not my mom or dad's fault that they didn't call. But I just remember while I was sitting in there, going through the worst of it. And I've got stories that can make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. But while I was going through the worst of detoxing, and if you've ever detoxed from Xanaxes, you know what I'm talking about. It's worse than any Stephen King movie you could ever imagine. I just remember thinking to myself, man, it sure would be nice to hear my dad tell me it was going to be okay. It would be nice to hear his voice on the end of the phone telling me that I could beat this and that I could overcome this. And the right wing took audio calls of Joe Biden talking to his son and saying to his son, you're going to be okay. You're going to beat this. They took that and they found a way to belittle a father showing compassion to his son in his darkest hour. And that is something that I will never forgive them scumbags for doing. As someone who's been there, that is absolutely unforgivable to me, that you would use something like that as a political stunt. So when people comes at me and says, what about Hunter Biden? It's not the flex they think it is. I don't go, oh my God. I don't question which side of the fence I'm on. I say to myself, you know what? In any other world, Hunter Biden would be a success story. In any other world, Hunter Biden would be celebrated. But MAGA needs to smear Joe Biden because of all the shit that has been smeared all over their party by Donald Trump and his crime family. So let's just distract everybody and let's use this as a political stunt and let's belittle addiction Let's belittle recovery. And as someone who has been there, and as someone who has battled it, and who still battles it to this day, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. I still battle it to this day. I still wake up from time to time, and I crave a Xanax so bad that I can't explain how bad I crave it. And I've never been able to kick alcohol. I'll own that one. I kicked it for 8 months once. It's the longest I ever went. I've never been able to kick it. So I was able to kick the hard stuff. And I lived a life where I tried every drug known to man and a few that aren't. And I lived as close to the edge as I possibly could without going over. So when you share a story of a guy who did the same and managed to come out the other side and live to tell about it, I'm not going to belittle that dude. And I'm not going to demonize him, and I'm not going to find a way to use that for a political stunt. So I applaud Hunter Biden. Good for him. You want to know where's Hunter? He's right there. He's right there owning up to who he was. Telling you can ask him all the questions you want right here in public. He's put his cards on the table. Now you guys play your hand. See how far you get. And maybe one day, all the people who's caught up in the Hunter Biden saga, what about Hunter? Where's Hunter? Where's his laptop? Maybe one day they'll realize, you know what? None of that had any effect on my life at all. It was just something I chose to get mad about. My dad's dying, and I'm having to bury my loved ones, and I'm struggling to pay my bills, but yeah, Hunter Biden, buddy. I'll never understand that mentality. There's no way anyone could convince me to understand what goes on in someone's head and makes them think that way. But from one recovering addict to another, good on you, Hunter.